Good evening and welcome to Silicon Mountain. I'd like to thank the sponsors of this evening's program. We have 3 sponsors, and the sponsorship is what allows us to do the live stream and subsidizes the pizza that you had tonight. So our 3 sponsors are all long-term sponsors. If you know of other sponsors, we're always looking for more. Come see me afterwards. New Leaders is a local dev shop specializing in business automation. Clear Capital, based down in Reno now, yeah? Clear Capital is the leading provider of data, analytics, and valuations for the real estate market. And then our 3rd sponsor, Holland & Hart, is a full-service law firm that has a Reno office, and many of our local startups work with them. So thank you to our sponsors. This evening's program is called Launching a Successful Kickstarter Campaign for a Handmade Business. And our speaker this evening is Casey. She's the owner and designer behind Casey D. Sibley Art and Design, a Reno, Nevada-based studio specializing in hand-drawn and hand-painted designs for textiles in a happy modern style. She designs colorful and bold fabrics for a line of handmade home goods and personal accessories meant to be used daily and inspire a happy life. So tonight, Casey will share how she planned, built, and launched a Kickstarter campaign to cover exhibit costs for the New York Now trade show. Topics will include building trust with your backers, getting the word out about your campaign, developing rewards, and keeping momentum going with current and potential backers of the campaign. She'll also discuss how she chose Kickstarter and what she did to research the platform beforehand to strengthen her campaign strategy and successfully raise over $10,000 for her handmade business. Thank you for joining us, Casey.
Thank you so much. So thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this, and I have a lot of information to share. I'm going to try to go through it kind of quickly without just rambling on and on about it. And then I'm going to ask you guys to hold your questions until the end, because I'm sure some things will come up, and that way I can just kind of stay on track, and then we can kind of go a little deeper after the campaign. Yeah, I'm still like thinking that way after the presentation is over. So I'll just start. Okay, so be a crowdfunding success. And I went with Kickstarter, which I don't know if everybody knew that, but I did decide to go with Kickstarter. And just a kind of brief overview of what I do. So I design textiles I design patterns for textiles, and then I also create a line of products. So I have some home decor accessories, and then some personal accessories like totes and small handbags and travel accessories. So this is an example of the fall collection that I'm launching at New York Now, and was the focus of the Kickstarter campaign last month. So I'll give you a brief history of my business. I started a handmade business in 2012, and I had been kind of dabbling on Etsy about a year prior to that. Just kind of trying some things out. I used to be an architect, and so I was kind of working full-time as an architect and then selling artwork online on Etsy. And then by 2012, I decided to launch my own website and officially get my business license. I began wholesaling my products with retailers in late 2013, and I didn't really know a lot about wholesaling, but I kind of knew that this was the way that I wanted to scale my handmade business and my product business. And then I grew the retail stockist to more than 20 stores worldwide by mid-2015, and then I'm currently actually a little bit above 35 stores now and growing. And I launched this campaign in early 2016 to attend the New York Now trade show to grow the wholesale side of my business. So going to this trade show was the focus of really the whole year, and what prompted me to do a Kickstarter campaign, because it is a very expensive show to attend. So why Kickstarter? So first of all, my problem was obviously cash flow and brand awareness. And I really liked that Kickstarter offered an opportunity to kind of hit both of those at the same time. So the solution was to do crowdfunding. And my Kickstarter goals were to cover the exhibit costs for New York Now, which I'll go into a little bit more in depth on that. Increase brand awareness through campaign outreach. I knew that this was going to be an opportunity for me to really not only target the people that already follow me and that are excited about the work that I'm creating, but try to reach out to more potential customers and backers. And I saw this as a major PR push for the brand and not just a way to raise money for a short-term goal. I really wanted to increase awareness around what I was doing and creating with my business. And I wanted to refine the brand messaging in the product line. So I've been doing this since 2011, like I said, and I'm a solopreneur, and I've been doing all of this on my own, and sometimes it's a little bit intimidating to really put yourself out there and focus on a singular mission for your business. So I thought this is going to be a really great opportunity for me to articulate really well what I'm doing with my business through Kickstarter. So after Kickstarter and this trade show, I really wanted to double my retail stockist to 70 plus stores. I wanted to do an additional PR push for national press exposure and continue to increase the brand awareness for more web sales, because currently the wholesale side of my business is the largest cash flow for my business. It's probably close to 90% of the business that I do currently. So first, why Kickstarter? So I have lots of notes here. I'll try not to read directly off of this, but I really liked Kickstarter because I trusted Kickstarter. I've donated to Kickstarter campaigns myself. For me, Kickstarter is a much more socially credible campaign, and that's really just because it is an all or nothing platform. You have to reach your funding goal in order to get funded, and because of that, I just feel like people that get on Kickstarter are in it to win it, and they're in it to really commit to the project, and they're not gonna, give up halfway through, Not that other platforms would, but I just felt like there was, because of this all or nothing push, you really had to come prepared to do a Kickstarter campaign. And then other platforms that I found had much more flexible requirements, and I just feel like that was something that turned me off in the past. Whenever I saw someone, and I've donated to both Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and there's a couple of others, but I just really liked that Kickstarter was very distinct in the fact that it was all or nothing. So also incentive. I feel like because it's all or nothing, your backers are more incentivized to back the project. Because with other platforms, again, if you don't reach the full amount, they run in different ways, but there's a lot out there that do not require you to fund the full amount for your campaign, which I feel like can kind of make your backers a little bit less anxious about you reaching your goal, because they're like, well, if you don't get all the money, you'll still get some of the money. But I really needed all of the money, and I wanted to really push that and incentivize people to donate. And then two, I feel like if people don't feel truly needed, then they may talk themselves out of it or more easily forget about your campaign. So that was another reason. Accountability. Again, back to the all or nothing platform. Running a Kickstarter campaign is a lot of work, and I did mine for 30 days. So running a campaign for 30 days gets a little bit emotionally draining because you're constantly reaching out to people and having to ask them to give you money. And that can be a little bit draining at times. I knew that if I was on another platform where I didn't have to meet the full funding goal, it would be a lot easier to say, you know what, I'm kind of tired. I feel like people are getting tired of hearing about this, so I'm happy with 7,000 or 5,000. I'm just going to stop there. That's good enough. That'll get me some of the way. So I really liked the accountability factor of Kickstarter. And then reciprocity. Again, this is something it kind of varies based on the campaign, the platform. But with Kickstarter, you have to provide rewards for your backers. So because of that, I could provide a product for the people that back the project, and then I could run the campaign not as a sort of like charity giving campaign, which it definitely was not, and give people a piece of the product for their donation, and also get people really excited about the products again, because that's really the goal of my business as a whole. So I tried to look at Kickstarter in a way that, like, how is this going to propel my business forward as a whole and become a part of that business growth story. Okay, so the planning stage, start early. I started planning my Kickstarter campaign about 5 months in advance. So I began planning it in January and started reaching out to people that I knew could potentially help me, like for a video. I reached out to some friends immediately. As soon as I decided, okay, I'm definitely doing Kickstarter, I just sent an email to a friend to help me with a video, started planning and started thinking about all of the different things that I might need to accomplish in this Kickstarter campaign. Ask for help. So like I said, reached out to friends first and foremost to help me with the video, and they created a really awesome video for me, which I think was very instrumental in the success of the campaign, and I'll show that video in a moment. I also hired a friend of a friend for PR help. I had someone that kind of sat down with me, and I'll actually back up and say my budget was like $0 when I started this, and the people that helped me with the video offered to do it for free, which completely intimidated me, and they did a beautiful job, and I was so blown away with them. But throughout the whole thing, my goal was to pay them once I was funded. So that I did end up paying them after that, but they never even asked. So you may have friends that just want to like help you out, and that's awesome. But yeah, they did a really great job and were super generous with their time. And then the friend that I hired for PR help, I didn't really have a budget for PR, but what I did was work with her on a consulting basis, and I said, can we sit down for an hour here, 2 hours there, and work through a strategy that I can implement myself, you know? And then she and I actually just ended up having this amazing friendship kind of blossom out of this partnership, and she did so much sharing and sort of cheerleading throughout the whole thing anyway. But I did hire her on a very limited budget, just a couple of hours a month really, to have her help me develop a campaign strategy, something that I could implement myself. And then I also reached out to people that had run Kickstarter campaigns. So I knew of one girl in particular that had a baby product line who had done 2 Kickstarter campaigns, and both were successfully funded. So I reached out to her, and I met her at a conference actually about a year before I did my Kickstarter campaign. And actually, she may have reached out to me because I had posted something about it on Kickstarter and offered to hop on a phone call with me, so I took her up on that. And she gave me a lot of really great feedback and talked a lot about the planning of the campaign and making sure you keep the momentum going. So that was really invaluable. And then I also had another acquaintance through a business group that I'm in on Facebook, actually, that also reached out and offered to help. And she had done, I believe it was an Indiegogo campaign, but had a lot of resources to share for running a campaign. And then during the campaign, I also had a lot of people that offered their help and feedback as well. So don't be afraid to ask for help. That's been like my biggest lesson for this entire year, probably. So make a great video. The video matters a lot. And I think that if you're gonna be on Kickstarter, you definitely wanna have a video. Even if it's a homemade video, those do really well too, but you definitely want to create a video where your personality is shining, you're getting down to the nitty-gritty of why you're doing this, and you're being really transparent about what you're creating and why you're asking for help. See, I feel like there was something else I wanted to tell. Oh, keep the video short and engaging. I researched a ton of Kickstarter videos. I was Googling everything I could possibly think of that might even be somewhat related to the type of campaign that I wanted to run. So I looked at a bunch of different types of videos, and the thing that I noticed is that a lot of people do a 3-minute video. I started losing interest in almost every single video by about 1.5 minutes. And I was like, okay, I want to make my video 2 minutes max, you know? And then when I was talking to the video team that I worked with, we decided that we would do a 2-minute video and then have a few like 30-second teasers that I could post on social media that kind of touched on a couple of other topics that maybe we didn't cover in the video, but also kind of helped build that excitement around the campaign. So do we have sound for the video? Can we not play that? And also with your video, you want to be really clear early on about the goal. So when you start your video, you want to make sure that that's kind of like you hit those main topics first, and then you can get a little sappier. Sure. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Hello, I'm Casey of Casey Sibley Art Design. I'm an artist and a textile designer, and I have a line of handmade home goods and accessories in a happy modern style. I love to sketch. I love to explore different printing methods. I do a lot of hand stamping and screen printing and hand-painted fabric. And then I also like to translate a lot of my designs and sketches into patterns for digital printing, which allows for a much more consistent result. One of the things about the products that I'm creating is that they embody this ethos of a happy, inspired, comfortable, carefree life. All of the fabric is cut by me. All of the products are sewn by me in my home studio in Reno, Nevada. I have a large table that I do a lot of the printing on, which also doubles as our dining room table. I do everything there. I take all of my photographs there. So I've really turned a small space into a functional studio, and it proves that you can do a lot with very little. I'm on Kickstarter because I need your help. This year I was accepted into New York Now, which is a trade show that could help grow my business in really big ways. Going to New York Now will give me the opportunity to reach way more people than I'm reaching right now and potentially inspire more people to live a happy, intentional life. One thing that I'm really passionate about is making sure that people are doing things that they love to do and not just sitting in a job, just working for someone else just because that's the way it should be. Thank you so much for your support. I'm so excited to go to this show, and I'm even more excited for you to come along with me. Okay, so that video was the main video that we did, and so like those shots of me speaking to the camera, I was like seriously having a panic attack. So they did such an amazing job of like kind of coaching me through it, and I think that they did a good job of making me look at least a little bit relaxed. But yeah, it was pretty intense. But with the video, I really wanted to educate people on what I do in my business. I wanted to educate them on why I wanted to go to the trade show. And I also wanted to let them know that like it's not a big operation, it's just me. I work out of my 1-bedroom apartment. I've taken over our living room and our kitchen to become my studio. And you know, I like my photography studio is like literally 6 pieces of foam core that I like fold up and unfold and like, you know, position whenever I need to take photos. So I really wanted to show that part of what I'm doing so that people understood all the ways that I run my business. So that was something that was really important, and to really get people involved in the story of a growing small handmade business. So, okay, the budget. Be honest with yourself and your backers about how much money you really need. For me, $10,000 seemed absolutely audacious. I felt like that was a lot of money that I definitely did not have sitting around, and so I was really anxious about telling people that I needed that much money, and I was afraid that people were going to be like, well, wait a minute, why do you need this much money? So you want to just be really honest about that. Like I went through and just started kind of brain dumping and making a list of all of the potential expenses that I might incur going to New York Now. And I probably could have raised double the money and still not had enough to go. I mean, like I had enough to cover all the costs. I don't know. It's really hard to stay within budget for something like this. So I really kind of early on got a little bit, kind of wiggled around in the discomfort of that and just decided on it and decided to be super upfront within the campaign too about how the funds were going to be used. And how you plan to use the funds. So I created, for my campaign, I'm going to show you guys some images from my Kickstarter campaign, but I created a series of infographics and used a lot of imagery in my campaign just to kind of help people scan through, see what they're going to be getting, and understand the campaign without having to read too much text. Because another thing that I noticed with other Kickstarter campaigns that I had researched was that a lot of people just like dump a whole, paragraphs of text, and I feel like that's really hard for people to kind of scan through and really get the key points. So the very first thing that I pointed out, so on Kickstarter you have your video, And then right below that is all of the campaign information. So the very first thing I did was just really clearly state, kind of like a mission statement for what my campaign was going, like what's the point of this campaign. I want to release a new fall collection of products at the New York Now trade show while increasing brand awareness and exposure for Casey Sibley Art and Design. So the cost, I said it will cost Casey Sibley Art and Design $10,000 to attend the New York Now trade show with Kickstarter funding. And so I really wanted to be clear with people that this $10,000 number, not all of that goes into my pocket. And I think it's important for people to know that. And I do feel like sometimes people don't want to share that with their backers because they're afraid that, I don't really know why, but I think that people aren't always super explicit about how all the funds are dispersed throughout the campaign. So 5% of your campaign funds goes to Kickstarter fees. And then another 3 to 5% is going to go to cover your transaction fees for everyone who donates to or backs your campaign. And then I had another 12% that was going to go toward Kickstarter rewards fulfillment. So I'll touch on this later, but you want to make sure that you're choosing rewards that you can easily fulfill, but you also want to try to keep your costs down as much as possible on the rewards. But mine ended up being around 12% to fulfill the rewards. And that actually ended up being pretty accurate now that I've been purchasing all of the supplies for the rewards. And then that Kickstarter reward fulfillment also includes shipping costs to ship the rewards to your backers. So those are all things you want to factor in, because it would be really disappointing if you're like, I need $10,000, and then you get your money back and you're like, okay, I only got like eight grand, and then that's kind of, you're gonna have to figure out how to work with that. So yeah, I'd be really clear with people. And I had several people actually point out this little pie chart and talk about how helpful, or how nice it was to see that and to see everything kind of outlined in that way. And I think that started to sort of build trust with people, like they knew exactly what they were getting into by backing the campaign. Okay, so the rewards. There's no need to reinvent the wheel here, and it's really tempting to think, I'm gonna do like special totes, well, I make totes, I'm not gonna, like special screen printed totes, which might be easier to produce, but then that's a whole other production process that I'm having to figure out logistically that could be kind of stressful. So I tried to stick to rewards that were both easy for me to fulfill and very familiar for me. So for the lower level rewards, I had like the $10, anything under $25 wasn't a physical, like they didn't get anything except for like a thank you, and but there was no physical product involved. And then at the lowest level for product involved was $25, and I did an art print of one of my prints. And that one was pretty popular. And then the next level up was like, I'll show you these, but anyway, I try to keep the lower levels reward products that are easy for me to fulfill. So I have these little storage buckets that I showed in the first slide. Those are my best sellers, hands down, and I can just like whip them out like that because I've made so many of them. So I focused on those, and then like kind of a medium-sized zipper pouch, which is another item that's easy for me to make. And be sure to give yourself plenty of time to fulfill the rewards. So it's tempting to put, because you can outline all of your rewards on your campaign page, but it's tempting to be like, I'll get these out as soon as, like ASAP, like within 2 weeks, and that just wasn't realistic for me. So I definitely have rewards, like the art prints will be shipping this month, and then the rest of the rewards will be shipping in September and October after I get back from New York Now, because in the midst of all of the Kickstarter reward fulfilling, I'm also prepping to go to this big trade show across the country. So I wanted to make sure that I was just super realistic about that with people too. Like, you want to definitely under promise and over deliver if you can. So you also, as you're planning it, you definitely want to talk about it to people. Like, don't keep it a big secret. I wouldn't go on social media and just like talk about it every single day, but you can talk to your friends and family about it and get feedback from them. Definitely talk to other business people that you trust and get feedback from them. But it really helped me a lot to kind of talk it out with people. And then you want to create a very clear campaign, and just like I said, I'm kind of reiterating this, but a lot of what I read and saw, the campaigns that I really loved the most were just super clear and focused on what they were doing and why. And they weren't, there was no really gray area about the product or about the mission for the Kickstarter campaign. And this helps to build trust with your backers, because, this is basically, like marketing 101. you definitely want to build trust with the people that are going to be giving you money, because they want to know what that money is going toward. And especially if someone new comes across your campaign that's never heard of you before, what's going to make them care what you're doing or trust you enough to give you their money based on a promise, basically. So using great imagery. Make it easy to understand the campaign without having to read too much. So this is again the first part of the thing, and so I'll kind of go through these. After the sort of goal and what the money was going to be used for, I did a quick little infographic on New York Now, the trade show. And New York Now actually had all of these stats. They have like these post-market reports that they do where they tell you everything you would want to know about who goes to the show and what kinds of things they're buying and everything. So I basically just lifted their stats and put it on the campaign so that people could understand a little bit more about the show, because my average customer probably has no idea what New York Now is. So I wanted to make sure that they understood what that was. So I did photos of all the rewards, and I wanted people, instead of having to read a list of what they were going to get, because my product is a visual product, I wanted them to just be able to go through really quickly and kind of see bundles of, and two, I kind of based the rewards on 3 main products: the fabric buckets, the totes, and then those zipper pouches. And then I had some sort of custom products for the higher reward levels. So for everything under 500, those are products that I make pretty frequently and are easy for me to fulfill. And I kind of did different bundles based on the different levels to kind of keep that easy. And then I had a few custom products for the higher levels. And then I showed them a little preview of what I was going to be releasing for the fall, and then talked a little bit about my business and certain practices that I try to implement in my business that are important to me, like having low waste business practices and like recycling fabric and being handmade in Reno, Nevada, kind of touch on the local component too of what I was doing. And then I talked a little bit about Beyond New York Now, and if the project was overfunded, what I would do with the money. Gave a little bit of sort of social credibility with some as seen in stuff, and then a little bio about me and the business at the end. So for pre-launch, once I had the whole campaign pretty much designed and ready to go, I had set a date for July 1st to launch the campaign, and I made a list of all the contacts that I could possibly think of people that I had a little bit more personal connection with than just like my general followers on Instagram and Facebook and all of that. This included family members, business contacts, close friends, not that close friends, but I mean all people that I felt like I had some kind of connection to, that I felt would be excited about this and would be interested in helping me spread the word. So I made a list of the contacts, and you don't really need a huge list of people in order to make this happen. I reached out to probably 115 to 120 people via email before the campaign launched, and asked them to take a look at the campaign, tell me if there was anything that kind of stood out about it that didn't look right or wasn't super clear, and to look over all of the rewards and tell me if anything just felt kind of like I have no interest in that, or maybe you could do it this way, or price points, everything. I was basically like, anything that you see, let me know. And I got some really great feedback on that too, and actually changed some of the rewards because of that feedback. So that was really helpful. That was 120 people. And also one thing I'll add too, I started kind of doing a little bit of a pre-launch to my email list. So I have an email list for my caseysibley.com website, and that email list is at the time was probably about 250 people. And then I have a blog that I write called leaprepeat.com, and it's just it's about kind of creative entrepreneurship and kind of going for it and doing what you're passionate about. And so that list was like 40 people, and so I sent out some pre-launch information to these people too. And in those pre-launch emails, I asked people, I kind of preemptively was like, okay, I'm going to be launching on this day. When it launches, I'm going to send you another email, and here's what I'd really like for you to do. I'd like for you to share it. Here's what you can say. Here's a link to a post that is going to, that you can just like hit share on it. Like, I made it really easy for people to share the campaign. So after that you want to pre-schedule everything. So you want to make sure that you're kind of getting a pretty good grasp on what you're going to be posting for social media posts, the types of emails that you're going to be sending to people, the types of updates that you're going to be sending through Kickstarter, because Kickstarter has a sort of a blog component for your page, and you can post updates throughout the campaign, and those are great too to kind of keep people in the know about what's going on. So you want to kind of schedule all that. And what I did for the social media post and for the Kickstarter updates, I had images ready to go. I kind of had thought in my head, okay, if we get to 25%, I'm going to send out an update. If we get to 50%, I'm going to send out an update. You know, I'll send out an update after the first 24 hours, wherever we are. And so after the first 24 hours, we were at 30%. And so that was like really exciting. And we were like, okay, you know, so I sent out an email in the first 24 hours for that. So you want to make sure that you kind of think ahead about certain milestones that you might have and plan for what you're going to say for those milestones. And that just kind of helps you so that you're not just having to think of things on the fly or putting things off. You kind of have like a blueprint ready to go. And it kind of gets you in the mode of like thinking to being funded so that you're not kind of doubting yourself throughout the campaign. So I had several images. This is a screen grab from my Instagram, which whenever I post to Instagram, it goes to Twitter and Facebook. So I did a lot of the same. I normally try to post to Instagram once a day. That's one of the platforms that I use the most for social media sharing. So I was still posting the once a day, but I was also adding in the Kickstarter stuff. So I wasn't just inundating people with Kickstarter stuff and just like a million exclamation points, please give me money. I was just trying to kind of pepper it in, and I had one of these video teasers. I tried to also, you can see up here on this top image, I have the little Kickstarter K. So and in my pre-launch email, I told people, you know, if you can share the posts that have the little K on them, that would be amazing. So I tried to kind of give people little signals, like this is a Kickstarter post, you know, so share this, or you know, read a little bit more about it. And then just kind of peppered in my regular posting and also teasing about the fall collection that I was going to be launching. So this is an example of one of the teasers that we did.
I started my career in architecture, which is a creative field, but after several years in that field, I felt creatively stifled and was looking for something more. I started the business kind of on a whim and fell in love, became honestly kind of obsessed with it, and started growing this business, started trying to create a livelihood around something that I felt very passionate about.
Bit link for the campaign too that would help me kind of track the traffic that was going to the campaign. And so I put that bit link on almost everything, and so I had that at the end of the videos and would link it in all of the social media content also. And then, like I said, you want to tell people how to share the campaign. Just be really explicit about that. You want to give people really specific instructions, because especially people that maybe aren't on social media as much, or maybe don't understand Kickstarter that well, or have never heard of it. I found that I had to be super explicit, and I had to say, go, like even with like backing the campaign, I had to say, go to this link. Click the green button that says back this project. You know, I really felt like I had to walk people through the steps, because I think that, again, if people aren't familiar with a certain platform, and if it involves their money that they're giving to you, you want to make sure that whatever you're sharing on social media coincides perfectly with what they're going to see when they get to Kickstarter. Sharing snippets on social media, I did that on pre-launch also. Just shared, kind of leading up to it, I shared some little snippets about the video making process without getting too super specific, because I didn't want to fatigue people on the promo too early on, because I knew I was going to have a whole month of, you know, promotion for this. So don't be obnoxious, don't want to fatigue your followers. Okay, so launch, and then keeping the momentum. Let everyone know, like every place that you can possibly think of, let them know. And so I'm in several business groups on Facebook. There's a couple of like coaching groups that I've been in. There's other business related groups that I'm in, and a lot of times you want to check with the admin of the group and make sure it's okay to share this stuff. And there's also ways that you can share it, like hey, I just had I launched my Kickstarter today, without being spammy and being like, go donate now. You can just kind of talk about it, and if people are interested, they'll look you up and find it. But I shared it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I sent another email to all of my pre-launch contacts and said, today's the day we're launching, here's how you can share it. I shared it in the business groups on Facebook. I shared it everywhere. I was talking about it on Snapchat. I shared everywhere I possibly could think of to share it. Touch base with the pre-launch people. I also added links to the campaign on my email signature and social profiles. So I just, like, everywhere I usually had my business or my business website, I changed that to the Kickstarter website. So people are going to forget, because they just do, and so you're going to have to remind people a lot. I mean, you think about yourself. Sometimes you see something, especially on Facebook, there's so much information there. Sometimes you see something and you're like, I'm going to come back to that, and then you just don't. You forget about it. So you have to kind of get comfortable with reminding people about it, so they'll forget or put it off, or they may not fully trust crowdfunding at first. So that's another kind of educational component you'll have to add into your campaign. And you want to share often and openly about the process to remind them, without being like, there's been people that I've seen run crowdfunding campaigns where they're just constantly asking, and, like, practically screaming at you to donate to their campaign. I really tried to approach this from the standpoint of, this is something I'm doing for my business, almost like the same way that I would post about anything else that I'm doing in my business. Like, come along with me, let's do this together. Like, see what's happening. I was trying to kind of give people a little bit of a behind the scenes look into how I was doing this also, without just constantly inundating them with asks. And you want to talk about the Kickstarter platform again. Tell them how it works. Give them really specific instructions on how to contribute. And then don't abuse your personal contacts. So I sent them the pre-launch email. I sent them the email on the launch day. And then toward the end of the campaign, I emailed all of the pre-launch contacts that had not interacted with the campaign yet. And I just reminded them. It was a short email, and I was like, hey, the campaign's ending in a week. And by that point, I actually was funded a week early before the campaign end date. So I was also able to be like, yeah, we're fully funded, and even, like, I think I may have sent out an email like right before we were fully funded and said, hey, we're getting really close. Just wanted to remind you that I'm doing this. If you can share, and that would be awesome. And encourage sharing, maybe even more than contributions. So one of the big things about Kickstarter is that you want to get as many eyes on the project as possible, and that's going to not only increase your brand awareness, but give you more social credibility. If there's people, if you post something and like 10 people share it, that just looks so much better than crickets, So you want to encourage sharing a lot. Provide frequent updates. Don't beg for money. Let people know how it's going. You want to save some rewards for midway through the campaign. I had maybe 3 or 4 rewards that I kind of peppered like as ads throughout the campaign, so that way I wasn't talking about the same rewards over and over and over again. I had something kind of new and exciting to share with people. And then let people know about any exciting press, anything that comes up. I had a couple, because of the PR person that I hired, I got a spot on the news. They came to the apartment and filmed me in my studio, and I talked about the show and the Kickstarter campaign. So that was some really great press. I got a mention in the Northern Nevada Business Weekly. There was a radio show that I did about it. So that having the PR person helped out for that, because she really pounded the pavement for some of those opportunities for me too. And thank your backers and sharers often. Like, I don't know if everybody does this, but every time someone shared it, I got a ping on my phone, and I immediately went out and thanked them for sharing it. Anytime someone backed the project, I would go on, and I actually didn't realize that I could do this until later in the campaign, but you can send a message to people through Kickstarter and thank them for their contribution. But you want to make sure that you're thanking people, and not just thanking them for the money, but thanking them for the support and for helping you reach this really awesome goal. So after the campaign, obviously you want to celebrate, because it's a really awesome accomplishment, and it's really kind of mind-blowing that people really come to your aid that way. And then you got to get back to work. So you want to thank all of your backers and sharers again for helping you reach the campaign goal, and let everyone know the next steps. So you definitely want to, as soon as you're funded, reach out through the Kickstarter updates and say, okay, here's what happens next. It takes Kickstarter 2 weeks to release the funds. They have a mandatory 2-week hold period. You want to let people know about that so that they're not wondering why you're not doing anything for 2 weeks after your campaign ends. So they'll hold the funds for two weeks plus a couple of days for the transaction to go through with your bank. And then you want to let them know when you're ordering supplies and how the reward fulfillment is going. So for example, also right after you get funded, and you can do this, I did this actually immediately. I started sending out surveys to everyone so that they could pick their reward options. You want to do that pretty soon. The only thing about Kickstarter is that it's going through, it might end up in their spam or like in one of the Gmail tabs. It's not like their main tab. So there were a few people that didn't see the survey, so I had to email them personally, and you'll have their email through Kickstarter. So I reached out to some people personally to make sure they filled out their surveys to get their rewards fulfilled. Yeah, and then today I actually sent out an update to let people know that all the fabrics had arrived, and I've started production on the rewards. And you want to use both Kickstarter updates and social media and email actually to keep people on top of filling out the surveys and all of that, and on top of what's going on with the rewards. And you may have to email people personally. I already said that. So I'm going to wrap it up now, but there are a couple of other lessons learned. This is like an amazing exercise in marketing for me. Prior to doing this campaign, I probably was a little bit loosey-goosey about my marketing strategy and was much more reactive with my business. This year, I definitely made a very conscious effort to get focused on sort of the brand messaging around my business. And I think that really helped the campaign a lot. Also, kind of a little anecdote for the backers. I had one family member that did not back the project, but I know that this person would have wanted to back the project if this person knew what it was all about, because they're very supportive. And so I became obsessed with this particular person. I was like, why are they not backing the campaign? Like, it was really interesting because I kind of had a little bit of an epiphany, because I was like, I know they want to help. I know that they would do this if they knew how it worked. And so I started like really structuring all of my brand messaging and all of my Kickstarter messaging to that one person. I was speaking to them specifically, and I was like, you know, in the pink shirt and the blah, blah, you know, not really, but I was just like, this is what you need to do to go here. And not because I was like, I can't believe they're not backing my project, but just because I knew that they wanted to help, and I knew that there was something not clicking for them with the campaign. So it became less about just wanting to get their money and more about sort of this big challenge of, how do I phrase this in a way that every person understands exactly how this works? You know, every person that might potentially want to jump on board, or every person that might be interested in the products or the work that I'm creating, you know, how do I speak directly to them to make sure that they're getting the message? So that particular family member was a very interesting kind of case study for me. And they shared like everything I posted. They shared every single thing, and I was like, why aren't you backing? I don't understand. But I was also worried that there were other people that didn't understand too, so I really toward the end I was like, I had that person in mind. Like every single message that I wrote, I was thinking about that person, you know, and trying to get them on board. Consistency and planning is key. This entire year has been revolved around a plan for the Kickstarter campaign and going to a show. And I don't think the Kickstarter campaign would have been a success had I not planned way in advance. And not just so much way in advance, but had just like really taken it very seriously and thought out all of the details. Another lesson learned, you want to have a really clear brand and story. I had to talk about the Kickstarter campaign and had to talk about my brand and my why, and you know, everything behind why I'm doing what I'm doing over and over and over and over again. So you start to kind of perfect your elevator pitch, and you start to try to make things really clear and concise so that people get what you're all about. And then ask for help. I've asked for so much help this year, and it's been amazing, and I've met and had the chance to work with some really amazing, passionate people who, I mean, they just blow me away. So that's really all. Just ask for help. And I think when you're doing something that you're really passionate about and really excited about, you tend to attract really passionate people into your life. So that's been a big lesson for this year. Okay, so a few resources. On Kickstarter.com, they have some amazing resources on their website, and their frequently asked questions. They have a creator handbook that goes through all of the things you need to know about running a Kickstarter campaign. And then during the campaign, they have a great dashboard that kind of shows you some stats about where people are coming from and which rewards are the most popular and all of that. So that's something that I kind of was checking constantly throughout the campaign. Green Inbox. Has anybody heard of Green Inbox before? So Green Inbox, a couple of people told me about this that had run Kickstarter campaigns, and I'll be honest, I was a little bit turned off by it. But I did use it, but I was turned off by it after I used it. I felt a little bit awkward about it. But the Green Inbox will let you email your Facebook contacts. And so I have about 700 friends on Facebook. I mean, probably 90% of them are people that I don't even remember who they are. I mean, like not like, but like we met once in college or something, and we're still friends on Facebook. So there were a lot of people that, like, when you go through Green Inbox, you can install it and you pay a certain amount. I think it was like $30 or something to send out an email. But I unchecked a lot of people, so I ended up sending out like 200 emails directly to Facebook contacts, and you can create a little message, and they make you keep it really short, so it's just kind of like, hey, here's my Kickstarter campaign, check it out if you can. I did use that, but I felt just a little bit weird about using that just because, I don't know, it just felt weird to me. But that is one option. I think that if you do have like a lot of people on Facebook that you keep up with, but you don't have their email addresses, this is a good way to kind of get in touch with them more personally than getting lost in the Facebook feed,
Out of the 200, how many signed up?
I had 4 backers come out of that, out of the 200 that I had emailed. So there were, and there might have been more later down the road, but like immediately 4 people went over and backed the project from that first 200. And that 200 still included like people that I wasn't necessarily as close to, but was still like we would like each other's stuff on Facebook. Like, again, people from high school or college that was more of an acquaintance, that we had a friendly relationship, but it wasn't like we were super close. So I had 4 people. So it was, I don't know that I would use it again, honestly. So Google Drive, I put everything on Google Drive. And then another resource that I really loved was yet another mail merge. So this was a plugin on Google that you can use with Google Sheets. And it allows you, so this is what I use to send out the emails to all of my personal contacts. So I had kind of created a form email that basically went through all of the kind of sharing and the information about the campaign. And then I was able to also kind of add in a little like personal note in a spreadsheet and like plug that in through yet another mail merge. And so that worked really well actually for emailing a lot of people with the same information, but people that were more close contacts. And then Vanessa Van Coor and Lucas Starmer are the people that did my video production. They're amazing. They are creative and they are very sensitive to your creative needs, and they're not going to try to steer you in the wrong direction. I was very, very happy working with them and felt very heard throughout the whole process. Even when I was like having a panic attack during the video filming, they talked me through it. And then just research as much as you possibly can. I researched constantly. And then that's it. I don't know how long that took me, but and this is where you can find me online. This is the bit link to the campaign if you wanted to go on there and check that out. And then I'm at Casey D. Sibley everywhere on social media. So that's it. Yes.
So question for you. The price point of your rewards,
Yeah.
How does that compare with the normal price point of the products on your site?
They were pretty much the same. So I basically, I didn't offer any sort of like discount incentive for the rewards. Sort of the incentive that I tried to focus on for this campaign was early access to the new collection. So that it was like a pre-launch sale, a pre-sale of all the products that I was going to be launching exclusively at this show. So that's how I structured that. Okay.
And a question from online, did you do any outreach to any media or blogs?
Yes, so Jill Stockton is the woman that was helping me with PR, and she sent out a press release to several local media outlets, and that's how I ended up getting the spot on the news and all of that, which brought in some stuff, and then a couple of there was a blog post with the Northern Nevada Business Weekly. So there were some things like that sort of brought some people in also, and she did reach out a lot to those. I didn't reach out to any national blogs or news outlets or anything like that. Yes.
So when you were building your list of people collecting, is it mostly you started out through your own contacts, or?
Yeah, it was pretty much all my own contacts. There were a few people that I had a relationship with, and a good relationship, a really great relationship with, but I didn't have their email address. Like there were some people that, like for instance, there's actually how I met Rachel. There's a group in Reno called the Breckies, and so we meet a few times a month for breakfast. And so there were a few women in that group that I hadn't really ever had to email with personally, but I had a great relationship with. And so for those people, I would reach out and ask for their email. And a lot of them knew what was coming too. So.
Did you use something like utilities to collect mail on our website?
I have an email list sign up on my website for people that want to opt in for kind of my general business updates. And I did reach out to those people too.
So is that like MailChimp? Or?
Yeah, I use MailChimp. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
So, if you monetize your time that you took to create this reality, how much did you get paid an hour?
I don't know, maybe like $1. I don't know. Actually, I didn't keep track of how many hours I put into this, but it was a lot. I mean, even when I wasn't actively working on the campaign, I was constantly checking the stats and responding to comments on social shares and all of that. So it was a lot. I spent a lot. I mean, the month of July was pretty much almost solely focused on Kickstarter. And
my sense is you missed a zero in your campaign.
I missed a what?
A zero.
What does that mean?
That means it should have been 100,000, not 10,000.
Well, yes.
Okay, what I see is an incredibly talented person who did an incredibly great job for very little money. And you learned a lot. And that was so impressive. I mean, everything I've seen, every slide, every video, it is an absolutely impressive first-rate job.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. And there's a lot of that is because I'm very.
Well, like for example, the 500 people, those 500 people really wanted to know what you're up to. And too bad you missed out. Because you missed an opportunity.
Well, I don't know that. Well, for one thing, $100,000.
Well, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally.
Your time is very valuable.
Absolutely.
And you got a lot of people to contribute who probably could have been paid more.
Yeah.
And the thing is that if you set your sights bigger and added a zero.
Yeah.
And blasted those other 500 and did that.
Yeah, I absolutely think that, like several times during the campaign, I was like, I need more money. I was like, I should have just gone a little bit bigger, and this being my first campaign of this, any sort of funding push ever, I definitely played a little smaller than I probably could have. I mean, I feel like I could have raised more for sure. And going into it, I was very timid about asking for more money. Now that I've done it, I think I could probably do more if I ever do this again. But also for the scope of the project that I was trying to get funded for, if I had changed the scope of what I was doing potentially, then $100,000 would have been appropriate. But for what I was doing and kind of the goal of this particular push, $100,000 would have been sort of preposterous. I mean, it wouldn't have been appropriate for this particular goal.
So I mean, if you just looked at it as in terms of the reward you got of $10,000, that didn't cover your rents. I mean, after all the expenses. So my point being is your time needs to be always monetized. Put into any time you raise money, or and selling at the same value, I would have jacked up the prices because people want to contribute and see your success.
Yeah.
And willing to incorporate that in the price, and so you didn't have to keep it equal.
Well, I did go just a little bit above, and I also, and like on my, not a lot, like I didn't like jack it up, 100%, but it probably was maybe 10% higher than what I normally sell on retail, and then I also charge shipping. So I mean, there was a little bit of that, but yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
Now tell us the after effect of going through this process. I mean, what has it done to your business?
It's definitely garnered a lot more exposure for my business, and I think that both the people that have been following, and then all the new people that have started kind of following along with my business journey, and I feel like in their eyes it's increased my credibility a lot. And I think that friends and family members were like, "We're proud of you," even leading up to this, but like when they saw the videos and they saw the thing on the news, they were like, "I knew you could do it," like you've made it, and it was just really, that was kind of exciting. That I feel like for as far as like the social credibility factor, just because we were so focused about the sort of not only the Kickstarter mission, but getting really clear about the brand and the brand messaging for people, that helped a ton for that, just for that exposure. And then I think that there's a kind of this sense in general that there's this momentum building going into this show, which has been really great. Oh.
Yeah, great job, by the way, first of all.
Thank you.
What is the average Kickstarter donation? Is 10K average, or is it more than that, or do you know?
Well, the average funding goal, I think it varies a lot depending on the project. There was actually another campaign that I found that was a similar project to what I was doing. They were trying to raise money to go to the same trade show. And I actually found them after I decided to do this. I was like, is there anybody that's done this? So they also did 10,000. But as far as like kind of an average, there's so many different types of projects. I wouldn't know that number off the top of my head. But the average donation per person tends to be around the $30 to $40 range. And so I tried to, those little fabric buckets that I make, I had like a set of 2 of those for $40. And I sold a lot of those. And then I had like a zipper pouch, kind of travel pouch thing. I sold the most of those, and those actually sold out. And then I introduced a second reward tier for those. So those ended up being really popular, which is also great. I'm getting off on a tangent, but something I didn't touch on, another really nice thing about Kickstarter and launching a product on Kickstarter is that you can kind of gauge interest in the different options for the product. So that was really helpful too, to kind of see which of the new patterns people were the most interested in, and that became like clear immediately, when people started filling out their surveys. Yes.
I think an answer, what you've done is a marketing campaign that didn't just last 30 days.
Yeah.
I mean, was this last July or this July?
This was this July.
Okay.
So I just wrapped up the campaign on June 1st, and I feel like and this was my goal with this campaign too. It wasn't just about like raising 10 grand for this one thing. It was really, when I came into it, because early on somebody had asked me, what's your goal beyond New York Now, or what's your goal beyond this Kickstarter campaign? And I was like, I want to grow this. I want to scale my business in a really big way.
You're on a good track because you have a bunch of media that
Right.
can be used over and over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was really important, and I was intentional about that too. And I want to make sure I tell people that, because I like the world we live in, the social media world. Sometimes it seems like people get opportunities dumped into their laps, and it's really not like that. And I think that it's important for people to know, like, if I've learned anything about this entire year, it's that I've been very intentional about each action that I've taken with the Kickstarter campaign and going to the show. And I've made a point to kind of get over the fear of not making it happen and just decide that I want to do it, So,
Sorry, one
go
more.
ahead.
And how was the show?
So I'm leaving next week. Been kind of freaking out.
So you mean you ended it August 1st?
No, I ended it June 1st. July 1st, sorry. It started in June, and I think I got the dates mixed up. Yeah, I started in June, ended on July 1st.
So, to add a zero on it is the greater vision, right?
Yeah.
Because you do all your own manufacturing. Well, the problem with you doing the manufacturing is you will be a perfectionist, and you will get it down right and perfect, except that takes away from time to do design. and
You're
all the other
describing my
things.
entire life right now. Because it is, and that's something actually that I'm working
So,
on. I am working
Another
on.
Kickstarter of
Yeah.
$100,000 to do,
Yeah.
outsource your manufacturing.
Well, I am already working on outsourcing manufacturing, and I'm so that is something that I'm moving into past this. And while I understand your point and do appreciate that, I don't plan on doing another Kickstarter like in the immediate future. But I do feel like you're totally right. Like there's potential for much higher, a much higher
Did
funding.
your competition get the 10,000?
Yeah, it did.
We've got one question over here.
Yeah.
I have several, so I can talk to you later also.
Okay.
But I'm curious about if you incorporated the cost for the video and the PR person in
Yeah.
the campaign budget.
Yeah, I did. So I did very intentionally for PR. Like I wanted to have a little bit of extra in there for that. And then the campaign video, as things started kind of developing with that, I thought, okay, if this gets funded, and I had kind of an amount in my head that I wanted to give them, and I thought if this gets funded, then I'm going to make sure I give them some money, and then hire them for real skis for every other video project I ever have because they were amazing, and then like tell everybody in the whole entire world that wants to listen to me how awesome they were. So.
But you had to pay them up front first.
No,
right?
no, I didn't.
Okay.
They actually, it was a friend of mine, a really good friend, and her boyfriend, and so I reached out to her. Actually, it's funny, kind of like how your mind works, but around the same time that I was thinking about doing this Kickstarter campaign, for some reason I thought, I'm going to reach out to them and see if we can do like an online video of a painting class. And then as soon as I emailed her about it, and as soon as she emailed me back, I was like, actually, I need a Kickstarter video, you know? And I was like, now that you're interested, actually, what I really need is this, and so it's just funny how it worked out. But she was like the first person I thought of, and when I talked to them about it, I said, how much is this going to cost? And she was like, just our time. I was like, oh my God, you know? So I mean, they were really awesome about that.
So I think, did we have one more question over here, or did you have a question? No?
Okay.
Okay, one last question and then we'll wrap up.
So do you feel Kickstarter earned their 5%, and by doing what? What do you think you got for that 5%?
They, Kickstarter does not do much, and I'm glad you asked that question. They don't really promote your campaign unless like they have like a magic thing where like if a lot of people are interested in your campaign, then it'll kind of get on the front page. But you have to do that. Yeah, I mean all of the traffic that I brought to all of the backers that I got on Kickstarter was traffic that I sent there, and there was like one backer that was like found me through Kickstarter, but it was actually my husband. So he's like went on Kickstarter, like yeah. So yeah, there was really no kind of organic traffic from Kickstarter of people who hadn't heard of me before.
Actually, I think we have a couple more minutes.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you've been amazing. That's fine. All right, you've been amazing. I mean, given such a limited budget, there is this infrastructure in Reno that has so-called experience with Kickstarter and videos and all this other stuff, and it seems that you eschewed them, so you didn't use them. In spite of that, you did probably better than had you used them. I'm just wondering, were you familiar with them?
No,
were they just too
I'm
expensive, or was it too?
I'm not familiar with them. Do you mean like video production people, or because I'm not familiar with?
Video people, you have people that have sort of have courses in Kickstarter
Oh,
campaigns.
yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know about them, but I will say this: I had a friend who had like one of the people that I reached out to and talked to about Kickstarter, who had worked with a video team that just wasn't very like didn't really want to honor her brand message, you know, and she talked a lot about how frustrating that was, where they were basically trying to get her to say things that were a little bit more sensational than, and her brand is amazing, you know, but like things like that were really frustrating. And I knew Vanessa, who I did the video with, I had worked with her on creative projects before, and she works at the journalism school, so I knew she had experience with video production, and so there are a couple of people in Reno that I'm friends with that I've worked on creative projects with that I always think of them first. Like even if I don't know exactly how they can help me, I'm like, do you know how to make this happen? Just because we kind of share a brain, you know, and I'm like, let's see if we can work together, and we work really well together. So that's how I worked with them, but I didn't even know about that, so that's interesting. Yeah.
I want to know what the one person that you tried so hard to reach, what finally took to reach them.
No, they never donated.
Oh, they never
backed the campaign. Like on the last day, I was just like, whatever. I was just like, what is going on? Because I mean, my mom and my dad were both like, well, I'll give them a call. I'll talk to them. And my mom had talked to this person, and they were like, oh yeah, I'm going to support the campaign. And I really don't think that they completely understood. I tried so hard. I mean, without saying their name specifically in a post. I mean, I was trying to think of every possible resistance they could potentially have to backing this campaign. And I was trying to speak directly to them, like the voice of God, And I was just but they never did. I don't know. I really still just want to ask them why they didn't. Not because I'm why didn't you? But I want to know seriously, this would help me in the future to reach people. What was it about? Yeah, I'm gonna ask them. I just don't want it to come across why didn't you donate to my campaign? I didn't want to be a jerk about it. Yeah. But it's interesting. I would really love to know what their thought process was and how they saw the campaign. From a different perspective than someone who's familiar with that type of campaign.
Kickstarter versus, sorry. I was going to ask Kickstarter versus Indiegogo.
I've backed Indiegogo campaigns and I looked into Indiegogo a little bit. I just didn't feel like the structure of Indiegogo was, Indiegogo is a little more flexible, I believe. And honestly, Kickstarter, I kind of went into it knowing that I was going to go with Kickstarter and it had very little experience with other platforms. But Indiegogo is more flexible, I believe, and I think you can have a all or nothing funding goal also with them, but I think it is much more flexible. But I don't know all the intricacies, and I feel like I know so much more about Kickstarter now just because I researched it so heavily leading up to the campaign and then now my experience with it. So I don't really know, sorry.
Yeah, I said a quick one for you. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
I mean, obviously you're a lot of people, see everything you were doing and all the time you sunk into it, and I was really inspired. And I was thinking, wow, Jim's really here, $9,000. But there's something to be said for starting small, getting your brand out there, and so now you have an infrastructure in place for the next time you go.
Yeah.
Before you get that 100,000. But my question is does Kickstarter do, or do you have a forensic way to find out? Because you did so many platforms, Snapchat, Instagram, Dream, Box.
Yeah.
Is there any forensic way for you to go back and say, so I got nobody on Snap, but I had a lot of traffic from Insta. Did you have that information?
You can link your Google Analytics through Kickstarter, but I haven't really dug really deeply into that. But I do believe there are ways to really dig into that.
So do you know where most of your traffic came from, people, or are you just going off intuition?
It's mostly intuition. I mean, honestly, I feel like a lot of it was Facebook and Instagram, but that's also where I just put the most focus, So I do get a lot, in general, even off of Kickstarter, just general website traffic, a lot of that comes from Facebook and Instagram too. So, yeah, but there are ways to dive a little deeper into that. I haven't done that yet.
All right, and I think we have one last question from Jay.
I'm working for a company right now. We're planning on doing a fundraising, Indiegogo campaign in the early winter. And like you said, we're planning early already.
Yeah, that's good.
By the way, on Indiegogo, they allow you to do a flexible campaign or a fixed.
Okay, that's what I thought with them. Okay.
But I was wondering, did Kickstarter help you with the fulfillment side, get you all the addresses and give you discounted shipping, or were you totally on your own?
So you don't get any kind of discounted shipping, but they do allow an option to add in the shipping on top of the reward amounts. So I did that, and it just goes toward your campaign goal. So I did add in shipping for some items. The larger, more expensive items, I just gave free shipping for those because my products are all fabric and they're pretty lightweight. So for things that are higher dollar, it really wasn't that difficult for me to ship for free. And they do provide you with all of the addresses and all of the information about your backers. So they when you send out surveys for the rewards, they can update their address and all of that. And you do have their email address afterwards. I mean, obviously you wouldn't want to add them to your email list unless they asked you to, but But you do have that in case you do need to reach out to someone personally. Like I had to reach out to maybe 15 people and say, you know, you need to fill out your survey so I can send you your rewards. So you do have that.
Can you maybe describe what the survey is?
Oh yeah, so the survey on Kickstarter, when you have all of your rewards, you send out surveys so people can choose, because some of the rewards I had like multiple pattern choices. So with the survey, they call them surveys, but it's basically like an order form. They can tell you which patterns they want for each product. And then I had a couple of products that were either or, you know, for a certain reward level, so they can decide that way. But I tried to keep that as minimal as possible with multiple fabric choices, just to give people fewer choices to have to grapple with. So.
All right, well, thank you everyone, and thank you to Casey. So if you have a few minutes, you can stick around and answer a few more questions. And other than that, thank you everyone for attending. We'll see you back here in 1 month on the second Monday.